Hello, and welcome back to the Discover Virginia Beach podcast. If you're just tuning in, welcome to season 2, where we take a deep dive into literally everything the Virginia Beach area has to offer and then some. Today, I'm joined by one of the amazing co-owners of Commonwealth Comedy, featured not only on How Embarrassing, the Winston Smith Games, and the Hampton Road Show, but also a ton of other local comedy events. And I'm pleased to welcome Edward Phillips. Edward, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Wonderful. Would love to start the conversation by asking you, Edward, where are you from and what got you to stick around and build a life and a business for yourself here in the Norfolk, Virginia area?
I was actually born in Virginia Beach. I think I lived there until I was like 5. And then I spent pretty much the rest of the time in Chesapeake until I moved to Norfolk. But I don't know. I've traveled a lot, but I feel like a lot of the people that I've met in Virginia have been like really great, and a lot of my family is here also. And I'm a comedian, obviously, so really like trying to establish a scene here to perform in. So yeah, a lot of things keep me here.
I love it. I love it. And I would be I would be beside myself not to ask you what's going on in the background, and I'd love to transition that with a question here that I had specifically for you. What was the first comic book you picked up as a kid? Oh, just to preface here, for those of you listening on the audio version, Edward has a massive, wonderful collection of I believe he referred to them as how would you like to refer to them, as models of characters?
Yeah, you can call them action figures. I'm not. I know what they are.
Of action figures. Excellent. Hey, no harm in that. Want to be respectful of the phrasing, but a wide array of action figures here. Growing up, did you have any comic books that you picked up as a kid, and do you have any favorite characters, heroes or villains, or otherwise that really stood out to you?
Yeah, I as a kid, and I mean still now, I love to read. So comic books was definitely kind of a great fusion for me of superheroes and reading. But definitely my all-time favorite is Spider-Man. You can kind of see him like up here. The head's a little cut off, but this is like all Spider-Mans, and I don't know.
Yeah,
We'll
let's see it. Because I know they've made a lot of different movies. How many official Spider-Man are there?
Man, I feel like there's got to be thousands, honestly. Like,
yeah.
It's I guess like the main Spider-Man that you see is like Peter Parker and now more Miles Morales.
Sure.
But yeah, there's like so many in it. You know, they're doing like the whole multiverse thing right now, so we're getting to see a lot of them, which is something I didn't think we would ever see. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's very interesting just how many different stories that they can tell just to really bring viewers together, which is incredible. And I understand that's what you do for a living. But before we get into your job and stuff, I'd love to know from you, Edward, when were you first introduced to comedy, and how has it shaped the way in which you see the world?
Man, I guess my earliest comedic memory was with my dad, and he brought home from work a VHS tape of a Sinbad stand-up special called Afros and Bell Bottoms. And that's like my earliest comedy memory, is like watching that tape with my mom and my dad, and we're just like cracking up. And I think that's when I really thought like, oh man, I wish I could do that.
What aspect of the I wish I could do that really stood out to you? Was it the standing up in front of people? Was it just the ability to make people laugh? I mean, what traits really stood out to you?
I think definitely the ability to make people laugh. Like I think when you're on stage and you're connecting with somebody, or multiple somebodies, if you're in front of a bunch of people, when you're connecting with them through comedy, I think it's a lot easier to kind of discuss some ideas that maybe don't readily get talked about.
Sure.
And like, I don't know, I really like the way that you can explore something comedically, but also respectfully. I just like the way that you can explore through comedy. I feel like it makes me think more critically about what I'm saying, because when you're on stage, you are representing yourself. Like those are your words, and you want to make sure that you're not saying something you didn't intend to say. So
Sure, sure. And the piece is connection, right? I mean, comedy, it blows past barriers, obviously. And sometimes it upsets people for the barriers it blows past. But at the end of the day, it sounds like your intention is to provide that sense of community, provide that sense of just belonging that exists within a community. Edward, I know people see you on stage, you laugh, and not many comics really, talk off stage, right? You're mostly telling jokes, which we'd love to get into that here in a minute. Just spoiler alert for you. But before then, I'd love to know, for those people who may only see you on the stage, what's one thing you really like about yourself that maybe not too many people know about?
You mean like something I like about myself as a comedian, or just in
Yeah, as
general?
a comedian, character trait in general, anything.
Okay. Um, hmm. I don't know. I think the thing that I like the most about myself is probably my ability to relate to people. I really like having conversations with people and like getting to know people. And just I guess it kind of helps you to understand the world, but also to kind of understand yourself. I think the more types of people that you're exposed to, the better, honestly. So that way you kind of are able to empathize more, I think.
Yeah, I love that. And speaking of empathizing and building things around community, I'd love to kind of dive into this next section of your business. So you are one of the co-owners of Commonwealth Comedy. Would you mind sharing with us the origin story and any key players that came about to really help make this collective what it is today?
Yeah, absolutely. So we actually got going a little over a year ago. It's myself, my girlfriend Erin Lindstrom, and our friends Alex Weller and Molly Graham for a couple of years, and we just kind of had the idea of kind of forming a group that was very like into values-based comedy, which I know like we've seen like a lot of comedians where you're you're getting the joke out, but it's kind of like at the expense of another group of people or maybe another just individual person.
Sure.
But we felt like it doesn't have to be that. And I guess not to say that not to say that we're like preachy about it, but it's like you can be funny by playing in the truth of a situation. Like you
Sure.
can be funny by just being honest about a situation, by just exploring all of those avenues that situations present. So that is kind of one of the big things that we do. But another thing we wanted to do is really like kind of branch out into the community, and not stay so insulated, because it is very easy to kind of get your comedy group and you're just very like involved in your own world, and you kind of miss what's going on around you, and you miss the connections that are out in the community. So that was another thing that we really wanted to get into as well.
Yeah, I love that. So your girlfriend and some friends, you guys come together and you're like, hey, we're gonna tell. How did you phrase it again? Value-based comedy or
Yeah, values-based comedy.
values-based comedy?
Basically, like when we're on stage, we're not trying to say anything that we're not saying things that we don't believe in.
Sure.
So I
Right.
think there are like it is very easy, especially in comedy, to slip into that. I don't really agree with this, but it, it's funny. But a lot of times that's where like you end up kind of hurting other groups of people, because you're saying things that you don't necessarily believe in just to get a laugh.
Sure, sure. So you're not going to technically force the joke. You're going to stick true to what you believe in and honor your word and how it's presented to others. I really like that. And that's
Yeah.
something that stood out to me about, Commonwealth in general. Would you be open to sharing maybe some challenges or some obstacles that kind of presented itself? The formation of any collective or business here in the area, especially with all the laws and forming a business and an LLC, it can be sometimes rather cumbersome and challenging. Being a business owner myself, would you walk us through that process and maybe some key moments that kind of made you feel rather challenged by the current system that existed?
Yeah, I think there are, especially when you're like hosting events at different businesses and different locations. There are a lot of things that kind of pop up that you weren't aware of. So like there are kind of like laws around like ticketed events and like having to pay like a certain amount in taxes for a ticketed event to the city. But as far as like I guess the business side, the formation side of it, that was mostly handled by Erin. She's kind of the business genius of the group. So thankfully we have her because she's the brain for that.
Love it. Love it. Yeah. And shout out to Aaron. I know I've been sending you guys Instagram DMs, just trying to connect with you. And I think I connected with Aaron or at least brushed your shoulder, because I know you guys you're out, you're busy, you're making great things happen. And like you said, you're 1 year in and learning all of this in addition to creating content is no small feat at all. So would you mind, for the folks who may not know about you but are looking to learn more, do you guys have a specific location or venues that you currently that you frequently show at? And then are there any specific hours or events that that you think folks might like to learn more about?
Yeah, so we are, like I said, we're really trying to be like out in the community. So we're really kind of spread out over a couple of the 7 cities. But pretty regularly. So on the second Friday of the month, we do an improv show at Medita Cafe in Ocean View.
Which cafe again? I'm sorry, I cut out. Medita.
Yeah, Medita, Mudita. Yeah, we're there on the second Friday of the month. The fourth Friday of the month, we're at Vessel Craft Coffee. And that's in Ghent in Norfolk. Right now, we're finishing a kids improv class in Chesapeake. And then we're starting another kids improv class and an adult class on November 16th.
That is so cool. You guys do kids, working with the kids as well as with the adults for just teaching improv in general.
Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful. Sorry for I think there's a bit of a lag on the connection side. So sorry if I'm delayed at all, but it is totally fine. That is super exciting. And well, I'll be sure to include all that information down in the show notes for folks to go and check out. Medita.
Awesome.
Yes.
And one thing I forgot, we actually just got the green light for it recently, but we're going to have a show at the Generic Theater in Norfolk on January 20th.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. Generic Theater in Norfolk.
Yeah. So we don't have like we don't have our own theater or like a home base, but there are so many businesses and theaters that are like looking for
so many theaters.
Comedians to come in. So we're able to kind of still have pretty regular shows, even though we don't have like a physical location.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. And for those listeners who may be visiting the area, tons of theaters, from the Atticus Theater to the Chrysler Hall and the Chrysler Theater, excuse me, all the way to the Funny Bone and everything going on in the ocean front with just, pop-up shops, like you mentioned, at Vessel Craft and Medita. So, with that said, Edward, I'd love to jump into our next section here, talking about just the community in general, because community is what helps bring us together and have conversations like these. You have actually served as the floor manager for Tidewater Comic-Con for the past 4 years, or I believe 4 years total. What has your experience been in and around the Comic-Con community here in specific to the Virginia Beach, Hampton Roads area?
Oh, honestly, it's great. I clearly am a nerd, so it's a lot of fun to be able to be in an environment where there are so many other people with those shared interests that you can talk to and just have fun with. I've made a lot of friends in the comic book community over the years. I unfortunately my schedule got a little busy, so I don't work as much with Tidewater Comic Con now, but that was a lot of fun when I was doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. Are you able to dress up when you're volunteering, or do you have to stick to the uniform and badge?
It depends on how hectic things are. Like there are some shows where you're just putting out fires left and right, and then there are other shows where things are going pretty smoothly, and you do get a little bit of that time. But yeah, I have like probably 7 or 8 costumes that I break out from time to time. So yeah, when I get the opportunity, yeah, definitely.
Absolutely. I mean, well, Halloween only comes once a year, so you got to be able to take advantage of your costumes other times of year, because it makes it, the return on investment, right? So, Edward, and I know, kind of shifting gears more towards the comedy community now, but what type of community have you built, specifically within comedy community here locally, and what impact has that community had on the way in which you've structured and functioned your business as a whole?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think one of the biggest things that we focus on is like equitable casting, where you really want to get as many like diverse faces as you can in front of the audience, and you really want to like facilitate those opportunities for people that might not normally get them, or people that are kind of pushed to the back. But that's something that we really wanted to do, like as part of the mission of Commonwealth Comedy. But also, and something that unfortunately is very rare in the comedy community, is we pay all of our performers for their shows. So that was another thing of like, there are so many, I can't tell you like how many open mics or book comedy show or book stand-up shows that I've done, or like venues that I performed at where the showrunner gets paid, and all the comedians are just like, well, thanks for coming, here's a soda. So we
Wow.
really
Yeah.
wanted to, yeah, it is like it is not the way you would think it would work, but unfortunately more often than not it is.
Yeah. Well, that's
um
amazing that you guys offer that. I might have to share some jokes later. I don't know. That sounds like a pretty cool gig. Awesome. Awesome. Well, Edward, thanks for walking us through that and sharing that really fun fact about how you equip and enable comedians of all different backgrounds and stories to present their comedy in a way that is truth-based and quite fun and enjoyable to be around. I know this is an interview and it's comedy, so it's still very fun and interactive. But you got to go check out our show to be immersive in that. And so with that being said, Edward, I would love to hear from you. Is there one memory or event that stands out to you that makes you appreciate the comedy community as a whole just a little bit more?
I think the the one memory that really comes to mind was there was what was this? I want to say this was like maybe, I don't know why I'm trying to count time. It was in 2020. It was at the beginning of the pandemic.
Gotcha.
And there were like, everybody's on lockdown. It's very hard to like see anyone. And there was just like that was, I guess, when I decided to really push for like more digital content. And during that time, I had like so many people kind of reach out to me to offer like a hand with that, and like people that like I could say like, hey, can I send you a script and you'll look over it? And they say, yeah, and they'll punch it up. And it really felt like, even though we're all like kind of separate in that moment,
Right.
there were like, it was still like a community. It was still like a team. And I don't know, it just kind of, it made it a little bit easier to not be able to go outside. So that's something that, yeah, I'll definitely remember.
I love that. And I really appreciate you sharing that. Very, very common amongst a lot of our guests here on the show that share and talk about that unfortunate time in our country where we're on lockdown for the safety of others, and just being kind of cooped up in a lot of ways. So that's really cool how you were able to make those connections in spite of what seemed like a very long isolated time for many people. Edward, I'd love to transition to our next section here. Rapid fire question. These are questions are quick and fast on the draw. Feel free to answer it with as much or as little detail as you'd like. Are you ready?
Okay. Yeah, I'm ready. Let's do it.
Awesome. All of your favorite comic book stores in the area have recently burned down except one. Which survived and why?
Oh no, man, that's a hard one.
Tragic. It was all over the Virginia pilot. Yeah.
I think it would be probably Comic Kings in Virginia Beach. That's the one that I frequent the most.
Comic Kings in Virginia Beach. Shout out to them. All righty. Next one. Which comedian inspires you the most?
I think that's probably a tie between Donald Glover and Rami Youssef. I like both of them for different reasons. Like Rami, I think his writing is so incredibly strong. And it's just like he's been on the scene for a while, but it's been like just a very, I guess, meteoric rise for him. To where like now he's got a show, or his show won a Golden Globe, and he's like writing movie scripts and branching off into all this stuff. So that's pretty cool. And then for Donald Glover, I just like the way that he builds worlds when he writes, to where it's like he can do things where like his music and his movies kind of like tie together, but he can also write like some very cohesive television content like Atlanta. So yeah, I like them both for different reasons, but definitely a tie.
Love it. Love it. Now, which mainstream comedian do you feel is a little overrated?
Honestly, and I don't think I'm going to win any friends saying this, but it might be Matt Rife. I just
That is literally my next question. Is Matt Rife ? Let's combine those two rapid fire questions, please. Edward, share what's up with Matt Rife. We're not telling jokes. We're doing crowd work. What is this? What is this? Tell us more.
Yeah, I think, and I don't want to begrudge anyone for doing crowd work, because there definitely is like a tool that every comedian should have.
Yes.
But I think there's definitely been like lately, and especially because of social media, because you have to have like the very quick short form content.
Yeah.
I think crowd work is perfect for that, because you don't need time to set up like context or anything like that. So it's like, I get why it's popular. But also what I look for in a comedian is like the written material, especially for a stand-up. Like if you can improvise, I mean, I improvise. If you can improvise, that's great. But if I'm watching your stand-up, I want to see your writing. I want to see your train of thought and how you process information. So I think for me, that's why Matt Rife is not hidden for me.
I understand that completely. I'm glad we were able to knock out those two rapid fires in one. Next question for you, Edward. Kiss, marry, kill. We have Dave Chappelle, Jerry Seinfeld, and Richard Pryor.
Ooh, man. I might marry Richard Pryor.
Okay.
The next one. I would kiss Seinfeld, and I would have to kill Chappelle.
Oh, what tragic. What a tragedy.
I know, I feel like, and I like we kind of touched on it while we were talking, but yeah, I feel like Chappelle kind of, on his return, he kind of slid away from at least what I felt like he was trying to do with his comedy when he started.
Yeah.
So yeah, unfortunately, where he is at present, not what I'm looking for. But I did like a lot of his older stuff.
Yeah. I mean, there is definitely at work a Dave Chappelle 2.0 that might not resonate with everyone out there. I get that. All righty. Edward, can we joke swap? I'll tell you a joke. You tell me a joke. I'll go first.
Okay.
Does that work okay?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So a Roman walks into a bar, holds up two fingers, and says, 5 beers, please. Thank you. Thank you. I will be here all night.
Okay, I love that one. That's pretty good. Let's see. Okay. Okay. So what did one farmer say to the other farmer? He said, "Hey, we're farmers."
Classic.
It definitely
Classic.
doesn't hit as hard as the 5 beers, but
That's like that's like the talking muffin. You can never go wrong with the interactions of two characters. Oh man. Last rapid fire question for you, Edward. What hero or villain character do you most identify with?
I think the hero character I most identify with is definitely Spider-Man. I feel especially like when they entered the Ultimate Spider-Man run, and they kind of like aged him down to be 14. I was also a teenager when that happened, so like I think that was like pretty cool for me to see like kind of the parallels between his life and my life, albeit his life was much more tragic than mine. But yeah, definitely Spider-Man.
Love it. Love it. Awesome. Well, Edward, we really appreciate your time carving out some opportunity to chat with you about Commonwealth Comedy. And I'd love to roll out the red carpet for you. This is your moment to share any special events, any promotions, or anything you just want to give a shout out. The floor is yours.
Cool. Yeah. Well, yeah, we kind of talked about a lot of it already with the second and fourth Friday shows and what we've got coming up with the generic in January. We are trying to get more into digital content. We have a lot of sketch writers in the group. So in addition to myself and the other three founders, we have probably 16 total comedians that work with us. But we're trying to get more into sketch writing. So we're going to have like some sketches popping up on our YouTube page, and hopefully we can get something set up to maybe do like a public screening or something would be fun. But we're still in the writing stages of that. So
I love that. I love that. That sounds really fun. Definitely keep me posted. If there's anything we can do. We've had lots of guests on here. So if there's anybody you want to get linked up with, would be happy to chat. Sorry, I'm looking for a baby here. Okay, so with that said, last question for you. What's one question you wish I had asked you today that I didn't ask you yet?
Hello.
My friend, Blake.
Hi, Blake.
Well, my daughter, but friend.
Oh, sorry.
No,
I thought you said Blake.
Blake. Yeah, Blake.
Okay. One question that I wish you had asked. I don't know. I feel like we've kind of run the gambit here, so I feel pretty complete.
Perfect. I'm glad to hear that. I always want to make sure we're covering everything you want to talk about, because at the end of the day, this is to really highlight everything you guys got going on, which is phenomenal, by the way. Have really enjoyed following you. So big thanks to you, Edward, for all the great work you're doing. And big thanks to our listeners here at the Discover Virginia Beach podcast and community. Please join us every week for new episodes and exciting content like this, where we get to take a deep dive into everything Virginia Beach has to offer. With that said, thank you all for listening, and we'll catch you all in the next episode.